Hello and welcome to the Meet the Parents podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 63 of the Meet the Parents podcast and another half an hour of parenting chat. I'm Tim from Slouching Towards Thatcham, and tonight I'm joined by John from Dad You Geek. Good evening, John.
Good evening, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Such is John's dedication to the cause that he's even taking a break from the Love Island final to record this podcast.
Yeah, love it or hate it, I don't know. We won't discuss that because that's a very much a Marmite topic.
So what we are going to talk about this week is whether kids should continue studying during the summer holidays or whether they benefit more from taking a break from the grind of lessons and homework. So, school's out for summer. No, don't worry, I'm not going to suddenly break into a chorus of Alistair Cooper's signature hit song, which incidentally celebrated its 45th birthday earlier this year. However, parents up and down the country are now staring down the barrel of 6 weeks of juggling time off work, exorbitant childcare costs, crowded holiday destinations, and other means of keeping the kids occupied for the holidays. Now, John, Katie's finished school for the summer as well, hasn't she?
She has, yeah. So today was her first official day off for the summer.
That's it, and the same for our kids too. So, is she in need of a decent breakaway from the rigours of schoolwork?
Yeah, very much so. I think the last month, for her has been quite tough. She puts her all in, and I think she was very much needed this break that's coming up. So, yeah, I'm welcome to see it. Although she's already last night we were sitting as a family, and she went, "Oh, I'm bored already," and I was really, honestly, we've not even started this summer holiday yet. Don't start telling me you're bored.
You can't win, can you?
You really can't. But she needs the break, and she needs for not all of it, for a period. She needs that downtime.
Our kids are definitely like that as well. I mean, they've crawled over the finish line really, and they've been pretty run down for the past, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks at least. I mean, it's like that every year, but it seems even more so this year than previous ones. I guess, in addition to staying up later with the long summer evenings and, the gradual accumulation of fatigue that you get, we've also had those long spells of hot weather over the past several weeks that have taken their toll in the form of lots of restless nights. And I know how they feel. It's not just the kids who need a holiday, is it?
No, definitely not. But it was interesting because I think the last 6 weeks, Katie, she picked up the odd bug as well that was going around the school when usually she's quite resilient to those, and had the start of a cold coming at the end of last week. So no doubt that will present itself full bore this week at some point.
So once she's gotten over that and enjoyed a bit of downtime, has she got any plans in particular for the summer, or is she just generally going to be taking it a bit easy?
She's going to be taking it easy. She's already meeting up with some friends tomorrow, I believe. No doubt she'll be wanting some money for that, and there's some events for that already. But yeah, I think it's just going to be lots of chill out time, friends over, her going around friends, sleepovers, the things kids should do on a summer holiday really, and just relax, as well as going away for a week or so with us as a family. So barring Ashley, she's not coming with us. 21-year-olds don't want to go on holiday with their parents anymore.
No, absolutely not.
She's certainly not interested if it's in the UK, which it is this year. So she's house sitting for us.
Now, I saw an article on the BBC the other day that discussed the relative merits of tutoring kids over the summer holiday. Now, it offered 3 contrasting views, one from a private tutor, one from a mum and author of Taming the Tiger Parent, who gave up having her daughter tutored, and the final one from a dad of 3 and author of The Idle Parent, who advocates giving kids as much freedom as possible. So let's have a little look at each of these 3 arguments in turn. So we'll start with the tutor's view. During the summer holiday, she tutors kids aged between 4 and 16 twice a week, giving them anywhere between 15 and 90 minutes of homework a day to do. Now, her argument is that kids' brains need to be stimulated over the holidays to maintain the stamina and concentration that they've built up during the school year. So, what do you think about this argument, John?
It's strange because I agree with her that kids' brains need to continue to be stimulated over that break. So like anyone, like an athlete, or if you go to the gym, if you just take 6 weeks off and do nothing at all, it's going to have an impact. But I don't think formal tutoring is the answer. Now, I'm no education expert, but from my experiences, there's other ways to keep your children stimulated over a 6 week holiday, be it reading, fun games. What I used to do with Katie was get her to make up stories and things like that. So there's lots that you can do to keep them stimulated over that time that doesn't feel like a rigorous tutoring or just feel like school. So I completely understand doing something over the period, but it doesn't I don't think it has to be in such a structured way. And you can do it in a way that it's fun for the kids. And I'm not saying that tutoring won't be, but I'm not a supporter of that.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see the argument in favour of tutoring in certain cases. And sometimes it's going to be helpful for some kids who, maybe need to catch up or consolidate their learning. Maybe they've had an extended period off sick, during school term, or, maybe they are struggling a little bit in certain subjects.
Yeah. There is a flip side to this, though, actually, from my point of view, thinking about it. And that was, so Katie's just finished year 7 at school. But the school that she went to at the end of year 6, going from junior to senior school, her new senior school actually run a 2-week summer school for those kids to get used to the layout of the school, get used to some of the teachers, get used to kind of like the environment of a senior school without all the other students being there. And they didn't do as much. They didn't have any homework at all, but they did spend quite a long period of time at school every day for 2 weeks.
And I can see, certainly in that transition between year 6 and year 7, that's a very big change. You're going to a new school. Yeah. You're potentially having to make new sets of friends. So I can definitely see the advantage in that. And I think that's probably quite a good idea for many kids who maybe need a little bit of help making that transition. But I do think, particularly with my kids who are a bit younger, I do really worry that there's a danger of burning them out. And,
Definitely.
Like you, I'm no teaching expert. I don't know if there's any scientific evidence one way or another. But looking at the state of our kids at the moment, I'm certainly, I'm not sure that I'd want them to continue in even a reduced academic routine, at least not for a couple of weeks. And again, very similar to you, I think I have a bigger problem actually with the implication that it's continued academic work that's the best or even the only way to stimulate young minds. There's enough pressure on kids already. You've got SATs in years 2 and 6. You have the influence sometimes of overly competitive parents, and do we really need to pile more pressure on them, especially if you've got kids who are performing well and enjoying school already? What's the expression about all work and no play?
And my concern, the other concern I have around tutoring as well is, depending on the subjects and what they're going through in that tutoring. Now, I guess for younger children, it can be an advantage if they're doing their phonics or their handwriting and bringing them up to speed there, or accelerating learning, which some primary schools do. Being a school governor, I'm aware of some of the interventions that schools do to help their gifted and talented students and those that are underachieving versus to what they are capable of. But if you're doing additional tutoring on top of a school curriculum and what the school's got planned out, you could then be giving your children other issues when they go back to school. If it's a subject that they've already learned and already up to speed with, they could be ahead of their peer group. And then they could get boarding school, and it can manifest other issues there. And that's my concern. So sometimes I'm all for tutoring if it's in partnership with the school and there's some kind of discussion happening.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. If there is any additional tutoring going on, you want it to complement or dovetail with.
Yeah, because 6 weeks is half a term. That's another half a term of learning that your child's going to have gone through if you do full tutoring. But I'm assuming this is a challenge tutors face and they know how to overcome. But for me, yeah, I don't think I'd feel comfortable putting that pressure on my child.
Yeah, and I have to admit, my point of view is that I'd rather encourage our kids to spend their holidays pursuing, experiences that will make them more rounded individuals and broaden their horizons, and then, send them back to school in September fully refreshed and raring to go. And maybe that's a bit easier for me to say because our kids are doing well in school. And, as I said, that I'm sure there are certainly certain sets of circumstances where it is absolutely beneficial for tutoring, but I guess it's one of those things that it's not for everyone.
No, indeed it's not. I don't think it is.
So how about point of view number 2 then? So this is the ex-believer. So here we have a mum of 2 whose older daughter was tutored until the age of 7, at which point she revealed that she didn't want the pressure or the additional pressure of accepting a school science prize. So, her mother immediately stopped the tutoring and instead almost went 180 degrees, became much more focused on developing other interests and encouraging her to play with her younger sister. So she talks of letting kids find their spark, and she cites how easy it is to get caught up in the spiral of competitive tiger parents who push their own kids even harder in a quest to be the best. So, is this something that resonates with you at all, John?
It is, yeah. I agree. I totally agree with not putting too much pressure on your children and letting them find their own spark and in things that they interest them, rather than the parents putting the pressure back on them, etc. So I kind of see where she's coming from, but the thing that worries me is this is just a snapshot of just one situation that I guess this parent went through. But if her daughter started making demands like that all the time, I don't want to tidy my bedroom anymore. I don't want the pressure of it. Where does it stop? I know that's playing devil's advocate, but it's you could go completely the other way, and suddenly you're dealt with this diva of a child that gets their own way all the time.
Yeah, and I guess it's a case of hopefully parents are making sensible, informed decisions based on what they're observing with their children and responding accordingly. But I think you're absolutely right. You can take it too far to the other extreme and let them get away with everything when it isn't necessarily relevant or appropriate to do so.
It sounds like she's done it for all the right reasons. That it's a pressure she removed from her daughter, and meant she spent more time with her younger sister, which was brilliant. And that's what you want, because that will help their relationship. And I think most people will agree. And I certainly, having 2 daughters, sisters is a very, very strange relationship. So anything you can do to bring them closer together is admirable, because they love and hate each other at the same time constantly.
Yeah, and it's the same with when you've got pairs of boys like we have, and we do make a point of trying to let our kids enjoy their holidays. So whether it's playing in the street with their mates or taking time off work ourselves so we can take them on day trips, or sending them to even sending them to holiday clubs where they can exercise their creative or sporty sides, or meet up maybe with friends who they no longer go to school with, that kind of thing. It's giving them that variety, I think, and giving them the opportunity to find new interests. And we try to do the same in term time as well. So our kids do after school activities, but we try not to overload them with academic activities in term time. Our kids do, they do music, they do gymnastics, cricket, all sorts of stuff, and we try not to fill every minute of every day with predetermined activities. Sometimes they just need time to decompress, don't they?
Yeah, they do. But funnily enough, actually, Katie's parents' evening, it wasn't even called parents' evening. I can't remember what they called it now, but basically we had a one-on-one with Katie's form tutor. At that, her school report this year was fantastic, and we couldn't have been happier. And she was outstanding in nearly everything, which is what you want. But the one downside was that they said she needs to get involved in more activities outside of just the pure lessons. So yeah, for us, we need to try and get Katie involved in more things in school, after school clubs and things like that, because she's not involved in any of those at the moment. She's got her St John's ambulance outside because she still wants to go into some form of medicine, whether it's doctors, ambulance, whatever. Now we're looking at what after school clubs and sports she can get involved with. Now she doesn't play netball anymore, so it's difficult, isn't it? I see. I was lucky when I grew up. I had my school, and I had a swimming pool, and if I wasn't in one, I was in the other, because I honestly don't know how my parents used to do it. So me and my sister used to swim at least 7 times a week, and that's the minimum. Sometimes it was twice a day. So yeah, it was all good fun.
The final case is the one of the idle parents. So here we've got a dad of 3 who's, he says his childhood holidays were filled with roaming around in the great outdoors and climbing through rubbish tips. I'm not sure necessarily that's something I'd advocate these days, but he talks of the concept of responsible neglect, which essentially means cutting your kids a bit of slack and leaving them to themselves while, kind of keeping tabs on them at arm's length. So, a lot more spontaneity, living in the moment, unstructured time, being creative, and particularly learning a degree of self-sufficiency. So, I mean, thinking back to your childhood, John, were you like that as well?
I had flashbacks reading this guy's comments in the article. I had flashbacks thinking, actually, that is exactly what my parents did with me. Was I was given a length of rope to kind of go with and deal with any consequences when I did things wrong, but also I had great fun. So as kids, we had a touring caravan that we used to go around the UK and into Europe in, and I was allowed to just go off and explore and make friends. And we were actually talking at the weekend with my parents when we was over there for dinner that we used to go to, and I couldn't remember where it was, and it turns out it was in Suffolk. We used to go to this campsite, and it was near a cliff. And basically you used to walk around the outside of the campsite and up and look down from this cliff to your parents. And quite often I'd sit there and shout down to my parents with my legs hanging over the edge. And they were fine with it. Or me and friends would be going off, and it was near an RAF base, and we'd go cut through the woods to stand at the end of the runway. I don't think you could do that now as much as that. But I think it's good if you can do the responsible neglect as such, but Katie was never a child that would let you do that. She always wanted you in line of sight. So if she couldn't see you, she would worry about you rather than the other way around. She hasn't changed much, actually. But yeah, no, I completely, I can see where it's coming from with that, because, and it's something you were saying. I think it does lead to you being more rounded, that you've got the academic side, but you've also got the explorer, adventure, and it helps with your imagination as well. I think when you just can go off and be kids being kids.
Absolutely, and as you've discovered with Katie, I mean, arm's length means different things to different parent-child combinations, doesn't it?
It's different now to what it was when I was young, for my parents. So arm's length for them meant that I was vaguely within the area somewhere, and they'd probably be able to find me. Whereas now, arm's length now means I'd sit at one side of a park and she'd be across the other side. Because I'm pretty sure with your kids, how far would you let them go without you in an area you don't really know? I guess around where you live and things like that is slightly different, isn't it? But
yeah, and it's funny, we're just getting to this kind of point now with Isaac. So he's 9.5. He's a sensible, responsible kid, and we've been gradually giving him a little bit more rope over the last few months. So, he's now allowed to go out on his bike, to pop out to the shops with his friends, that sort of thing. So, he's going like half a mile up the road, and it's only really to the edge of our estate, so he's not on any main roads or anything like that. And it means that bit by bit he's earning a little bit more trust, a little bit more independence. And I think the last thing I want to do is you want to be protective of your kids, but you don't want to be overly protective and to mollycoddle them. I mean, at some point they have to have the chance to grow up, don't they?
Completely. I totally agree with you on that one. Yeah, they do.
I guess my childhood was kind of similar to yours, in so far that I grew up learning to make my own entertainment during the holidays, because my dad was at work, and my mum worked night shifts as a nurse, so she was often sleeping during the day. So even from quite a young age, I learned to, even if I was alone in the house, just spending hours playing or reading on my own. And then when I reached my teens, I would often be allowed to take myself off for the day, or actually sometimes just curl up in bed with a book.
Yeah, exactly. I was left to my own devices as a teen. The only thing, certainly in my early teens, was the only time I'd contact my parents was if there was something wrong with my bike, because my bike was my mode of transport, and me and my best friend Stephen, we would go everywhere on them, and I mean we'd go miles. So much so that when something really did go wrong, it was like, okay, how do we what are we going to do now? And then it was getting your phone card out and going to a phone box and having to give in and call one of your parents.
phone cards. Try explaining that to one of our kids.
Oh, I've been there. Yeah, I guess is for another time. But yeah, we had that whole conversation about phone cards, and even Ashley, my eldest, who's 21, she was looked at me and went, "What? Oh, don't be so silly." 'Cause I used to have a long distance girlfriend when I was in sixth form. And she didn't believe that I weren't allowed to make phone calls from the home phone on it.
Fine, you've alluded to this a little bit already, but looking back, do you think that things have changed much since you and I were kids? I mean, do you think parents are less likely now to let kids roam free during the summer holidays, or maybe are we more likely to put more academic pressure on them than in the past? I mean, how much do you think things have changed?
Yeah, I'd say academic pressure, yes, and I admit I'm one of them parents that I want Katie to do well, but I also want her to enjoy school, and that's a main thing, because looking back on it, I didn't really enjoy my time at senior school as much as I should have done. But what I also don't want her to do, she's naturally more gifted than I am, and more academic than I ever was. And for her, a lot of the subjects at the moment are quite easy for her. And I'm trying to not let her put herself under too much pressure to perform in school, and just continue doing what she's doing because it's working. As for being more independent, she's quite independent as she is, and you can pretty much leave her to get on with anything at home, which as a 12-year-old you should be able to now. So much so that she even helps out with she does baking and things like that, which is lovely. I don't know if we'd let her do that if there was no one else in the house, though, because you know what teenagers are like, they get distracted quite easily. But tomorrow, for example, I'm as we were saying earlier, before we started the podcast, I'm off to Manchester tomorrow. Mel's at work, so she wants to go bowling with a friend, so she's got to get the bus. Now, I admit I've never ever got a bus in the town we live in, because I wouldn't even know where to start. So, being from London, I get the London bus routes. Out here, I don't. So she's got that to challenge to deal with tomorrow. And that's being independent, I guess, as such. But
yeah, that's a nice, small, relatively straightforward step in on that road to self-sufficiency, isn't it? So it's a nice, yeah,
exactly. It's a 15-minute bus journey. It's not gonna. Yeah, she's and these days they've got mobile phones, haven't they? And worst case scenario, if something goes completely wrong, she knows what to do.
And that's the thing, isn't it? With mobile phones these days, in many ways, it should be easier for kids to have their independence, because it's much easier for them to stay in touch once they are out and about.
It is. And it's easier for us as parents to track them. So we admittedly, with Katie, use Find Your Friends. So she knows where I am, she knows where Mel is, and we know where she is, so that we can track, and you can set that up so that you get notifications when they leave home, or you get notifications when they leave, say they're meant to be in a cinema or something, you get notifications say they're leaving. So they don't need to be continually telling you that where they are, because sometimes that's embarrassing to their friends. But on the flip side, as parents, you've got that comfort knowing where that they're going, and that's an open discussion we had that we use that on our phones. One, because I like it because they can track me and know when I'm getting near home and put the kettle on for me when I'm coming home from work, which is really nice. But it works both ways, and it's not a secretive thing. I don't think using those apps as a secret and not telling your kids that they're there is right, because I think it builds trust.
Yeah, in many ways life is more complex, but in many ways technology does make it a little bit easier and a bit more, I guess, reassuring for us as parents as well. So
yeah, using it in the right ways for the right reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess just to sum this up, I guess ultimately, no two families are the same. You have different parents, different children, different attitudes, different values, different circumstances. But I guess we agree it's important to let kids be kids to at least some extent for a few weeks every year. After all, the treadmill starts up again soon enough in September, and as much as we want our kids to be well prepared for adult life, they're only young once, aren't they? So before we go, what have you been up to recently?
Oh, what have I been up to? Well, I can't even remember. It feels like it was last week, but it wasn't. It was a couple of weeks ago. Work is just busy at the moment, which is good, because I started a new job in January and it's been fun. But in the last month, I've travelled 2,695 miles, business miles, that is. So, yeah, it's been tiring, but it's been good fun. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see I spammed everyone with pictures of Cornwall, which was good. But yeah, that's about all I've been up to, and we're away next week, which I'm looking forward to. So I'll be spamming everyone of pictures of South Wales.
So if anyone is familiar with the old Proclaimers song 500 Miles, they're just lightweights compared to John.
Definitely, yeah. I'm not walking it though. If I'd walking it, I wouldn't have this waistline, would I?
For us, like many others, it was the last week of school last week for our three kids, and as I've said already, you could tell how tired and irritable they were. Toby walked out of his Year 2 teacher's classroom for the last time in inconsolable floods of tears, but on the bright side, each of them won prizes at their end-of-year prize-giving assembly, and Cara rounded off her reception year by walking off with the class cup. But it's all quiet in the house at the moment as the boys are kicking off their holidays by spending a few days at my parents', where they'll no doubt be spoilt rotten.
Yeah, rightly so.
And that's it for this episode of the Meet the Parents podcast. We'll be back next week, but in the meantime, here's where you can find the two of us online. John?
dadyougeek.co.uk for the blog, and then dadyougeek on all of your good social media platforms.
And you can find me at slouchingtowardsthatcham.com and across social media at ThatchamDad. So you can download this podcast on iTunes and Android devices, on our website at meettheparentspodcast.com, and via a variety of podcasting apps. You can also follow us on Twitter at Parents Podcast and Facebook at facebook.com/meettheparentspodcast. So thanks for listening, and do please join us again next week. Good night.